They were sworn enemies, trained to destroy each other. But love had its own plan, and betrayal was the price they would both pay. Welcome to Hearts at War, where love becomes the battlefield. They had warned her about him. They said his name like a curse, a whisper of danger in every syllable. Adrian Vale, a man born on the opposite side of everything she believed in. A rival family, a rival mission, a rival destiny. Evelyn Krauss was sent to watch him, to analyze his every move, to find the weakness that would bring his empire crumbling down. She was meant to observe, not to engage, not to feel, and never, ever to hesitate when the time came to strike. Adrian Vale was her enemy. The very definition of it. He was cold, calculated, untouchable, a fortress of a man, built from steel and secrets. Or so she thought. The first time they met, it wasn't in the shadows or at the end of a gun. It was at a charity gala, a place where monsters wore tuxedos and smiled for the cameras. The air crackled between them, an invisible current of pure animosity. Words were their weapons, each one sharpened to a razor's edge. "You don't belong here," he said, his voice a low, dangerous hum that cut through the polite chatter of the room. It wasn't a question. It was a declaration. She met his gaze, refusing to let him see the jolt of awareness that shot through her. "And you don't own this city?" she replied, her own voice steady, defiant. She wouldn't blink. She wouldn't be the first to look away. Enemies, true enemies, recognize each other instantly. It's a primal sort of knowing, a magnetic pull of opposing forces. Their assignments forced them into the same orbit. Days turned into weeks of strained interactions. Forced meetings in sterile boardrooms, unwanted conversations over coffee. They barely touched, their eyes constantly locked in a silent battle of wills. She was looking for a chink in his armor. He was trying to figure out her game. They circled each other like predators, each waiting for the other to make a fatal mistake. But the more she watched, the more she saw. The mission parameters were clear. Adrian Vale was ruthless, but she saw things that weren't in the file. She noticed the subtle tremor in his hands when he thought no one was looking. A flicker of vulnerability he tried so hard to conceal. She saw the way his jaw would tighten, not in anger, but in something that looked like pain. And he, in turn, started seeing past the formidable agent she projected. He noticed the way her carefully constructed strength would crack at the edges whenever she was alone, when the weight of her mission pressed down on her. He saw the flicker of exhaustion in her eyes, the loneliness she tried to mask with sharp wit and a sharper tongue. The lines between enemy and ally began to blur, fading like ink in the rain. Suspicion was slowly, dangerously, replaced by a reluctant understanding, and then by something more. The shift happened on a rainy Tuesday night. It was late, and a citywide power outage had plunged them into darkness during one of their tense standoffs. The pretense fell away with the lights. For the first time, they weren't Agent Cross and Target Vale, they were just Evelyn and Adrian, two people trapped in a world not of their own making. They talked. Really talked. Not about their missions or their families, but about the stars, about the books they'd read as kids, about the quiet, secret dreams they'd long since abandoned. And then one night, under the pale glow of a street lamp in a deserted alleyway, the tension that had been simmering between them for months finally boiled over. When he finally kissed her, it felt like the ultimate betrayal. A betrayal to her mission, to her family, to his name, to everything they were supposed to be. It was reckless, it was stupid, it was inevitable. "I shouldn't want you," she whispered against his lips, the words a confession and a plea. He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes, his own dark with a conflict that mirrored hers. Then, "Stop," he said, his voice rough. But he didn't move. He didn't let her go. And she didn't stop. She couldn't. They became a secret, a fragile, beautiful secret built in the shadows of their war. Stolen moments in quiet apartments, whispered promises that held the weight of treason. Their love was a rebellion, a defiant act against the destinies that had been written for them. In those moments, lying in each other's arms, the world outside with all its conflict and hatred simply ceased to exist. There was only them. It was a dangerous fantasy, and they both knew it couldn't last. But they clung to it anyway, greedy for every second. The truth, when it came, was not a quiet revelation. It was an explosion. It arrived on a night filled with the scream of sirens and the deafening crack of gunfire. The operation she had been planning for months was finally in motion. But everything had gone wrong. Adrian stood frozen in the middle of the chaos as the evidence unfolded before his eyes. A cruel, undeniable montage of her deception, encrypted communications, surveillance photos, a detailed plan for his downfall, all orchestrated by the one person he had allowed himself to trust. Evelyn wasn't just his lover. She was the weapon sent to destroy him. The look in his eyes shattered her heart into a million pieces. The warmth, the trust, the love she had come to cherish it, all vanished, replaced by an icy, bottomless well of hurt. "You used me," he said, and the sound of his voice breaking was worse than any gunshot. She reached for him, her hand trembling. "No, Adrian, I fell in love with you. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did." His eyes hardened, becoming as cold and impenetrable as the first day they met. Love doesn't erase betrayal. He took a step back, away from her touch, creating a chasm between them that felt 1,000 miles wide. Then, he turned away and walked into the flashing lights, leaving her standing alone in the wreckage of everything they had built. But what Evelyn didn't know, as she watched him disappear, was that Adrian had a secret of his own. He had been playing his own game, walking his own tightrope, a truth that was far more complex than she could ever imagine. A truth that could either save her from the fallout of her failed mission, or seal their fate and end them both forever. If you believe love can turn enemies into something more, and that betrayal is never the full story, subscribe to Hearts at War for the next chapter, because when hearts collide, war is never the end. Thanks for watching, because when hearts collide, war is never the end. Thanks for watching.